Everybody. Uh, you know how we do it. We wait a couple minutes to see if people can join in, and then I can ask to see if anybody can hear me. That's the key question of all this. Can anybody hear me? So, can somebody comment in the comment section and let me know if they can hear my voice? I believe I'm good, but we'll see. For the people that's out there, I'm not trying to look cool with these glasses. I'm outside. My eyes are very sensitive to sunlight. That's why most of the time you see me indoors when I'm doing this. I'm here in Michigan. Uh, Had to go visit some family and things of that nature. So that's why you see the location at the bottom of your screen a little different. But as soon as we get one past the hour, we're gonna jump right into it. So share this with your friends, family, tell them to join in. We'll give them an opportunity to ask any questions they have relating to politics and finance, but of course I always bring it back to finance because I only care about the things that affect you as a person, the everyday person, and I don't care about what the mainstream media is talking to get you to sensationalize what's going on. For the people that's already joined, hit the chat, let me know where you at, where you from, so I can send you a shout out. Anna, hey, what's going on? So I believe somebody can hear me out there. And then, all right, so we about one past the hour, so we're gonna get into it. And this is something I'm literally just sitting here, and this just came across the ticker just now. And y'all know how we do it. Weekly wrap up. Again, put your comments, your questions into the comment section. I got a special helper with me today, my nephew. He got a list of questions to ask also, but please hit the comment section and the question section over there to the right of your screen, or at the bottom of your screen if you're watching this on a mobile device. But first off, and I wasn't even expecting to talk about this, but it just happened. Minnesota Representative Melissa Hortman, she just was assassinated. Her and her husband were just assassinated. These are Democrat representatives, and like I tell people all the time, I don't care Democrat, Republican. I believe in policies no matter what. If the policy makes sense, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I'm going forward if I believe in it. But it's a sad day for them. Um, Literally just came across the press just right now. Her and her husband, Mark, they was just assassinated. A guy impersonated a cop, and then they did something nefarious to them. Pam Bundy, the AG from Washington, she said that she's closely monitoring the situation. The manhunt is still out for the assassin, so that's still developing and things that got to figure out what's going on with that there. Just wanted to put that out there, fresh off the press. Literally, as soon as I hit the go live button, that showed up across my screen. So for the people that's out there wondering, that's what's going on there. Um, but now getting into the financial sector of it, Emmy, World. Thank you for joining. Want to say welcome in. Please like, share with your friends and family. Again, this channel is all about talking about finance and things that help people on an everyday basis. Yeah, we talk about the stock market. We talk about what's going on in the political space, but we don't sit here and talk about what benefits the people that are rich. We sit here talking about what will benefit or affect you as a common everyday person. First up, and y'all know I take notes all week to present them to y'all on this channel. So with that, the first thing that happened, no matter if you like the tariffs or not, and really the true reality is this is the environment we're in. Donald Trump is going to do what Donald Trump does. And the tariffs, for all the good it do and all the bad it do, it is producing some form of results. So General Motors, they just announced that they're investing $4 billion into automotive plants inside the United States. Inside the United States. So with that, that will bring more jobs to the United States. And with the $4 billion investment, that is two vehicles that is bringing manufacturing to two vehicles that was previously produced in Mexico. What do that mean on a grand political stage? It looks like Mexico and the United States are far away apart when it comes to coming up with the trade deal. But in turn, it means more jobs available to Americans in the United States. And like we've talked about many times about tariffs and things like that, the whole goal or the end goal of tariff is to have companies repatriate their jobs back to the United States because it costs so much for manufacturing outside the United States and just selling in the United States. It'll be cheaper for them, or they're trying to make it cheaper for them to produce in the U.S. and sell to the U.S. because they wouldn't have to pay those tariffs. It looked like GM saw the writing on the wall. They're going to put $4 billion to work to bring two vehicles back because they figure it's more cost efficient for them to build in the United States instead of trying to import in the United States and deal with the tariffs and the supply demand curve that goes with that. So that's number one. Number two, a tariff deal with China. The framework for the tariff deal has come about. Let me turn that screen just a little bit. But the tariff deal with China has come about. The agreement or the framework of the agreement has been put in place. The tariffs for China will not update or change, and we're gonna get into a little bit of why the number is so high. But just for the people that's out there, the tariff on China, including duties and everything, is 55%. Of course, it's higher than the 30% that was on there. Hey, Ludine, how's it going? Of course, it's higher than the 30% that was on there. But 55%, and then you're wondering like, oh, they came to a trade deal. I thought they was trying to get the tariffs down to zero. But you got to come to a reality that China has been running this tariff or this proxy scheme to get more money and more revenue for the government from the United States and from other places that sell products in their country. The government is used to having that revenue come in. So it's just like your household, your everyday household. If you used to bring in $20,000 from somewhere, you don't want to lose that money. So now, because you set your budget, you set your balance on that $20,000 coming in. So they can't just go to zero and say, oh, we're going to act like we don't have that money again. So the deal came out to, okay, we still want the tariffs that we have on you guys at a little bit lower rate, but also you can put tariffs on our goods. So that was the compromise. So the tariff is 55%. It's a little higher than the 30%, but it's way lower than that 140 something percent that was out there that everybody was like, what the hell is going on? So that's what's going on there as far as the tariff. So yes, your Temu, yes, things that you buy from China will be higher. And again, like we talked about, it is not going to be the price of every good that you buy that comes from that region is 55% higher. Some of the organizations, some of the companies will eat a certain percentage of that cost, and then they will pass a certain percentage off to the consumer. So again, affecting the things that matter to you on an everyday basis. The Donald Trump big beautiful bill. That's the next thing on the list. And y'all remember last week I said I 100% disagreed with the bill because it added $2 to $5 trillion in debt. And then I didn't just stop there and just say, oh, well, I said what I said and that's it. I just kept doing homework. I kept looking at different avenues and different line items that was available to the public of what's in the bill. And one thing that I seen, and I think this could be an easy fix to get the budget down to close to zero, is if Congress, and I know it's going to be a hard task to do or a hard thing to do because the banking culture wants that money, but if the United States government, Congress, Senate, and they say, hey, we're going to stop paying interest on excess reserves from banks, that would save the U.S. government about $600 billion a year on excess reserves. And paying interest on excess reserves is not something that's happened over, that's been going on since the birth of this country. It just started in 2008. It was supposed to start in 2011, but it got fast forwarded after the great financial crisis. So if they eliminate paying interest on excess reserves that banks hold, then that would save $600 billion a year. And in over 10 years, that's roughly about $6 trillion in saving. So with the big beautiful bill, if they combine that with it, not only would it cover all the deficit spending that they was going to do if they didn't do it, that would balance it out to zero or less than zero. And actually, the budget will be lower than what we expected. Now, will that happen? Probably not, because the banks are going to fight against it. The bureaucracy in the U.S. government, they have every motive operandi not to do any of that. But that is something right there. And if they decide to do that, I will 100% back the bill. But as it's written now, I still disagree with the bill. I disagree with adding trillions of dollars of debt on top of the 32 trillion that we already have. And like I said before, if we had zero or close to zero in debt and then we added 2 trillion, I wouldn't be upset, because we paying the debt with today's money and then we paying it back with tomorrow's money will be lower. But at $32 trillion, we way over our skis when it comes to debt. And it's not us that's living the day that's going to pay for it. It's going to be my nephew that's sitting to the side. It's going to be his kids, his grandkids, and his grandkids paying for it. And I don't want them to suffer. I'm big enough, grown enough, and I can agree that I voted for some policies, and everybody else should be grown enough to say that they voted for some policies that didn't make financial sense. But we did it. But the truth of the matter is we're not going to have to eat the cost, because it's going to be buried on our children's children's children. And that's the thing that now that I'm more cognizant of what's going on, that I don't want to happen. I don't want them to have to suffer for the decisions that me and my grandparents and my great-grandparents made. What else going on? Another article I just seen right before I came on live, and this is the last one, and then we're going to get into the questions, is a will. CNBC just came out and said only 1 in 4 people have a will. Now, I'm not a big fan of a will by itself. And just so for the people that don't know and how this whole thing works, if you pass away and you don't have a will, everything has to go through probate. And then, of course, with probate, there's cost to the family. There's surviving family members. And then the probate or the state or whoever, they get to figure out where the assets go because you didn't have a will. A will itself will tell the world. It still have to go through probate, but a will alone will just tell the probate officer or the probate custodian of the estate of where you want your stuff to go. It still costs the family. Now, I am a fan of family planning, but just not a will by itself. I believe you should have a trust. It could be revocable or irrevocable trust combined with the will, so you don't have to go through the whole probate process, so your family don't have to pay all these extravagant fees. The last time I looked it up, and this was about 2 years ago, that probate costs you 1% of your net worth plus a set fee for probate. And I'd rather my family have that or trying to scramble to have to pay that just to get the assets that I've already acquired. So for people that don't understand what trust is and irrevocable trust is, I mean, I know most people understand what wills is. A will is better than having nothing, but it's also not better than, it's better than having nothing, but also you need to combine that with another vehicle like a trust and irrevocable trust. A will itself is very cheap to come up with. I think it's like $100. But again, it still has to go through probate. It still costs. Now, the irrevocable trust or the revocable trust, it costs a little bit more up front, but your family don't have to deal with all the payment later after you pass. So that's just the yin and yang of it. I prefer the trust combined with the will, because the trust will have a couple wills inside, medical wills, and all that other stuff. And that's the avenue that I would prefer people go for, but at least have a will at the very least. Excuse me. Still getting used to this Michigan weather here. All right, so again, now I'm about to go through the questions, but that's all I have for the things that's going on. Of course, I know that the Iran and Israel conflict is going on, but do it really affect you? The only part that affects you, and this is the thing that you should look out for when it comes to the news, The conflict itself, it doesn't affect you here in the United States. It don't affect a lot of other countries. The Middle East, they gonna have some issues. But the part that you need to look out in the news, because of course they're gonna fear monger and make everybody think every little instance affects you, especially if you're not there. If they start bombing, talking about Israel, start bombing uh, the oil plant facilities and things like that, then oil prices are going to go higher. And then it will trickle down to gas prices going higher. Then it will trickle down to cost of goods going higher, because the transport of goods takes oil, it takes gas, it takes diesel. If the input costs for businesses go higher, they will transfer that off to the consumer. So understand that. Besides that, it don't affect the everyday person by what's going on in Israel, by what's going on in Iran. That stuff is just fear mongering, is clickbait, and all that other stuff. If the gas and the oil fields are not being compromised, and which they could be, but then that will start affecting you. But just because Israel bombed Iran, Iran retaliated, or what have you, or the nuclear deal going on, don't sit there and worry your brain about all that minutia that's going on, because only thing that you should be caring about is what's going on and how it's affecting your family today. What's going on in America as a whole, that's really don't have a big impact. And I'm not saying don't pay attention to the news, but just know that all the news that come out is not a direct impact to you. All right, so I just wanted to call that out because I didn't want y'all to think that I didn't notice that was going on also. But with that, let's go through the questions. Let's see what we got. Emery, again, thanks for joining in. No, Venom, I don't smoke. I'm just going through the questions. Vasone, what is a credit score and why will it matter when I'm older? Okay, a credit score. A credit score is just telling your next potential person that you're going to borrow money from, a bank or what have you. And Vasone right here, he just, he don't want all the ladies screaming over him if they see his face. So, but it's telling the next potential, let's say it's a bank, it's a auto lender or whatever, it's telling them how good you are at paying back money. That's all the credit score is. It's not telling them how you are as a person. It's not telling, how good you are as a family. It's just telling them how good you are at paying back money. I mean, credit score, I know that's a big thing in the US and other places, but a credit score is not the end all be all. You can still buy a house without a credit score. And I know might get some comments and say, what the hell is he talking about? You can still buy a car without a credit score. If you buy a car cash, it doesn't affect your credit score. See what I'm saying? So that stuff right there, but that's what the credit score is the higher your credit score is, that means the more things that you can borrow in combination with the income you bring in. You can have an 850 credit score, but if you don't have no job, you still ain't getting no money. So I'd rather you worry about the income that you have coming in more than the credit score. But that's all the credit score is. And then the thing is, if you focus on the income that you're bringing in and you're not just spending the money frivolously, you don't need to leverage your credit unless it's something in an investment. Like we always talk about, I'd rather use credit to make more money than credit just to buy stuff that's going to depreciate and lose value. But that's how the credit score works, and that's why it matters, because most people, they make their income, they spend most of it, and then they have $100 and $200 extra, let's say $500 extra. They can't save up to buy a vehicle. They can't save up to buy a house. And I'm not saying everybody can save up and buy a house. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm going for other different things that people pay for. They can't save up and go, so they have to get store cars. They can't save up and just go buy the school clothes and all that. They want to borrow money and pay it back on monthly payments with interest. But the interest is like 17, 21%. So you're sitting there paying it for the rest of your life because you only got $200 extra. So I would always say focus more on bringing in the income, saving the income, and using your credit as least as possible. But if you're going to use credit, it's to bring in income, not to just do whatever the hell you want just to say, hey, I got this and I'm making a low monthly payment. It's crazy to do that. Another question by Valsone. See, I'm messing it up. What is a simple budget and how do I create one that works for me? A simple budget, and I love this question. A simple budget that I like, and I know every time you hear the word budget, people say, okay, you track how much money you have coming in, and then you write down all your bills, and then you subtract the money that you have coming in from your bills, and then whatever you have left over, that's the money that you can go spend and do whatever, and then invest. I say it a different way. I say the money that you have come in, you figure out the amount that you want to invest, you invest that money. And then you can list all the bills you have, but you need to bring your bills or your cost of living down to the money you have left after you invested your money. So that means it's guaranteed that you're going to invest a nice chunk of your money before you go buying all the frivolous stuff. Because again, needs versus want. Do you need cable? No. Do you need a car, making a car payment? No. You can go buy a car cash. Do you need a lot of the things that people think that are wants? I mean, that they think that are needs that are actually wants. So that's why if you invest your money first before you get it into your bank account, or you already have that money set aside to invest, it forces you to live on less. But if you sit there and be like, okay, well, I'm a get everything I want, then my income come in and I got $200 left, and then now you at that dilemma of, do I put $100 in investment, or do I save my $200 in case an emergency or something happen? You want to invest first so you don't even have that dilemma, and then you gotta, shrink down your lifestyle. You gotta lower your electricity bill. You gotta lower, your cost of living. You can't stay in a $2,000 a month apartment. You need to stay in a $1,000 a month apartment. But the one thing for sure, two things for certain, is always investing, and so you'll always have money in the future. But if you don't do that, then you're just sitting here like the other 80-90% of the people that's still trying to figure out what to do. Compound interest, and how does it help my money grow over time? So compound interest, they say it's the eighth wonder of the world. Eighth wonder of the world. I love it. But what it does, so let's just use a small number. So if you have, let's just use with a 10% compound interest rate, and that's the average of the S&P 500. So if you have $100 and then it grows 10%, so then now you got $110. But then on top of that, the next year you're getting a 10% on $110 and not just $100. So then it grows to, I think, so now it's it's 135. I got to pull up a compound calculator. I don't want to mess it up. But then it's 135. But if you keep putting money in it and it keep compounding on itself, and you can look at Warren Buffett's life or how he did it. Warren Buffett didn't reach a billionaire status until he was 60. And then it compounded. Now it's like 138. But the compounding of larger numbers over time is the key. So that's why I'm always saying invest early and keep investing, and then get in a vehicle that's bringing you 8 to 10 times return. But if you keep doing that and it keeps compounding, then that's where the money will be made. Hey, Ludine, I see you out there. Another question I got, what's the difference between a credit card and a debit card, and what should I use? This is going to be counterintuitive. I know the sender who sent this, he's younger than me. Me personally, I only use a credit card, and that is because, one second. I only use a credit card for liability purposes. Now, when I use my credit card, let's say I use my credit card today, it will show up that I used the credit card today, and then it will say I'm able to pay it tomorrow. I pay 100% of it off tomorrow. The reason why I say liability purposes, I don't want no I don't want no institution, I don't want no vendor to have access to my bank account. So I use the credit card and I just go to my bank account and pay it off, because if somebody get access to my bank account and then they take, let's say, $100,000, $10,000, it's going to take me 3, 5, 7 days for the bank to refute it. It may take weeks for the bank to refute it for me to get my money back. But while the bank's refuting it, if they liquidated my bank account and I still got bills coming in, then I'm screwed, because now those bills will be defaulted. And then so I use my credit card for everything. So if they hack my credit card or they steal my credit card information, it's the credit card company's money. The credit card company's going to do way more to get their money back than a bank would when it's my money. So that's why I only use credit cards, and again, for liability purposes. But those are the differences. Debit card is your money. A credit card is the credit card institution's money. And I prefer if you use a credit card, you pay it back, pay it off as soon as possible. You never let it lapse over the next month. Don't think the only amount of money you should use on a credit card is the amount of money that you have saved to pay it off in your bank account. I never spend more on my credit card than I have to pay it off. So those are the difference between a credit card and a debit card. What is the smartest way to start saving as a teenager? That's a great question. I love that one. The best way to save is to start saving. You don't have to get unique cute with it and get into the investment realm. The key is get a job, work hard, especially in the summers. Get a job, work hard, stack every dollar you can. I mean, I know there's gonna be a lot of influencers out there that's gonna say, hey, well, yeah, you gotta buy this, you gotta buy a new game, you gotta do this. Just keep stacking the money. I'm not gonna say, oh, you work all summer or you work all day and then you don't get no enjoyment. But your enjoyment should be 10% of the work that you put in. So let's say you work during the summer and you make $1,000 a month. Of the $1,000, $100 should be for you just to enjoy. You know, maybe it's a video game, maybe it's something like that that you will pay for. But you just gave up a lot of hours of your time in the summer that you will never get back in life. So don't just go throw the money out to the wind because you already gave up the time that you can never get back. So the key is just to start stacking money, getting into the habit of stacking money, especially as a teenager. Stacking money, go below 10% of it. And then just keep stacking over and over and over again. And then once you get in the habit of stacking, then you know, once you get, 17, 18, you can start opening up your own accounts. Or if you're still a teenager, you can convince your parents to open up a custodial account for you and you start getting into the realm of investing. Start looking at different ways where you could buy stuff at one price and you can sell it for a higher price somewhere else. And then you can just start, stacking on top of it. But the key element that nobody wants, everybody wants the money, but nobody wants to start learning how to save money, let it sit there and do nothing with it. That is the first step to it all. So that's the first habit as a teenager. I say just start stacking money, and then once you got that skill of just stacking, not falling to peer pressure, then you can level up and go to the next level of learning how to maybe arbitrage, buy goods, sell goods, maybe learn the stock market, maybe learn the real estate market, maybe, it's a lot of different things that's out there that you can do to leverage the money that you have, or not even leverage the money that you have already, but just say, hey, I know an avenue to save money here, but now let's, look at different avenues, wholesaling or something like that to bring in more money, to find avenues to bring in income. Ludine, hey, Ludine, how's it going out there? Anthony House, Detroit, Michigan. Yep, I'm in Michigan, so hey, what's going on, Anthony? Levita, hey, how's it going? Winning 11 TV. I don't know what you're saying there. What is the issues? Will there be in the Middle East? The Middle East. We talked about that for a second. The Middle East, again, that is a very oil-rich place. So again, oil, gas. A lot of things run on gas. A lot of products are made as a byproduct of oil. Iran, I think, is 3% of the oil production in the world. I think. Somebody correct me on that in the comment section if you don't mind. But yeah, but again, on an everyday person, it means little or nothing. Now for oil traders, it means something. Oil went up about it got all the way up to 11% when the news happened of Israel attacking Iran, but then it closed Friday at 8%. And then now they're going back and forth volleys. Iran sent drones, then Iran sent cruise missiles to Israel. So there's a conflict going on. But for the everyday person, the only thing that matters is where the gas is going. And we'll need an egregious run. I mean, right now, well, before this conflict happened, Brent crude was at like 65, 63 a barrel. You need to have a real impact so you will notice it, the everyday person notice it. Brent crude would have to go to like 110, 90, 110, 115, 150. That's when you'll start noticing in the cost of goods going up. But just this conflict alone, people that's not in the Middle East, it is not a major impact on them. I know the subplots and all that other stuff that they're talking about on CNN, Fox News about all that stuff. But Really, does that affect you, or is that just getting you mostly attached to the news? And I care about the things that will financially impact you. Anna, any updates on the inflation, interest rates, and or the real estate arena? That's a good question. Inflation came down a little bit. Uh, it came down a little bit. I think the CPI number came out on Wednesday. It was 0.1% decrease in inflation, or increase in inflation, when they thought that the inflation was going to be a little higher. Interest rates are still higher, and I think that it will go well with this conflict in the Middle East. Interest rates came down a little bit on the 10-year Treasury, so the housing market interest rates came down a little bit. But if people are waiting for, the 3% interest rates that we seen back in, during COVID, that's not happening no time soon. And I know that Donald Trump is on the mic all the time yelling at the Federal Reserve, Fed chair, talking about he need to lower it 2% on the Fed funds rate. Not happening. And the reason why it's not happening, because there's not enough data that's out there that's saying that the inflation is under control. If they cut inflation right now and sent us back to the COVID times, people will borrow to the hill, and then they will drive demand, and the cost of goods will go higher, and inflation will increase. I don't understand how people don't get it. And I'm not talking about the person who asked the question, but a lot of people don't get it, especially the super MAGA, not question anything Trump say. They don't get it. Is the reason why we're in this situation was because the Federal Reserve kept the interest rates super low for too long. On top of the stimulus money and all the other money that rained down during COVID, that put more money in people's pocket to buy more. Now, do we have all that helicopter money coming in right now? No. But with interest rates down, and people, especially the people that bought, during 2022 to 2024 with high interest rates, they refi, cash out refi, and then they take, $100,000 or something out of their property. Then that's more money going on. That's more money in the economy. That's more demand that's driving. And then we're back in a similar situation that we was in before. So I am all for the Feds keeping the interest rate high as possible. Do that mean that because the interest rates are high that you can't buy a property? No. And the reason why I'm saying no, I'm not saying no because this is just what I think. I just got off a phone call with my son the other day. He closed on a property next week. I got off a call with another one of the followers on the channel. They just closed on a property. So the interest rates don't make it. You just got to work it to get to the right deal to make it make sense. Interest rates shouldn't affect your ability to do a deal. You just got to be able to maneuver to get the price to where you need it, where the deal makes sense. So I'm still a big fan, especially if you're under 30 years old, 35 years old, hell, under 50 years old, of house hacking. I believe in, buying a duplex, buying a triplex, buying a fourplex, living in one, cutting your cost of living in half or to zero, and renting out the other spaces. Those deals still work if you do that. Yep, like Sin just said, marry the deal, marry the house, date the rate. That's exactly how that works. What else we got? So Levita said, so take your debit card and pay off your credit card. This is me personally, I have my bank account linked to pay the bills. I have my bank linked to my credit card just to pay the bills. So if I swipe with my credit card, I just hit the pay. To pay the bill, like I said, a day or 2 days after I make the swipe, and then that's how I pay it. I mean, literally, I do not have a debit card in my wallet. The debit cards come in from the bank, I shred them. I do 100% on a credit card. Any updates on inflation? Nope, got that. Do you have a direction on setting up automatic investments on Schwab? Automatic investment on Schwab, I do have that. I do also use Principal. I also use, and I can't use my phone, I use Principal. That's another platform I use for automatic investments for my son. But when you setting up automatic investments, just to 100%, you put the money in and then it buys it. That's more in the mutual fund realm. I mean, I believe you can do On Schwab, you could do share slices or something like that. I'm not a fan of share slices. There's nothing wrong with them. I'm just not a fan of it. I'd rather get all my money in one location as fast as possible. But it's mostly in the mutual fund realm. So if you open up a brokerage account, you got to swipe over there to the mutual fund part of it, put in the mutual fund, put in how much you want to do on an automatic basis, and then you have to make sure that money is in that account for when that month to month, week to week, or whatever schedule you set up for that mutual fund to do. Besides that, that's all I know about automatic investments when it comes to the Schwab platform. I do some automatic investing in there, and it's with the mutual fund. That's how I could talk about it. I won't tell you nothing that I don't know about, so that's the only thing that I do. But I don't have an automatic investment into individual stocks. Now I have automatic money going into my brokerage account that's sitting there every month, and then I have to physically figure out what stocks that I want to buy at that time to buy. But just the automatic investment, that's the only way that I really know on Schwab how to do it. With the lump sum, LM, with the lump sum or of money, would you suggest using it all to pay off debt, invest it all, or a mix of paying off debt and investing? I love this question. For me, it's mainly what the debt is. If it's anything less than a mortgage, I'm all for paying off debt. And what I mean by that is, let's just use credit cards. Let's say you got $20,000 in credit card debt. Credit card debt is 21%. Like right now, I believe it's 21% interest on credit card, depending on what credit card you have. One thing for sure, two things for certain. Every year, you're going to get charged 21%. There's no investment that I know of, and I'm doing this every day. There is no investment that will guarantee you a 21% return every year. So if you pay off the $20,000, you eliminated that 21% interest that you're paying. So just by paying off the debt is an investment in itself. Now, if you're talking about, hey, maybe a home that you live in, now you got some pros and cons there. But I wouldn't mix and match. If I'm getting rid of all the credit card debt, consumer debt, as much as possible. If you're talking maybe a car, depends on where's that set up in your financial plans. That's a different thing. But a house, I'm not in a rush, especially if you got a low interest rate. Let's say you got an interest rate of 2 or 3%. I'm not in a rush for you to sit there and go hurry up and pay off your house, because there's other avenues that can guarantee you a return on investment that's higher than 2 or 3%. I mean, I know the mental exercise of it is, oh, you don't have to worry about that bill again. If that's you, go ahead and go for it. But for the most part, you can find an investment that can guarantee you a return way higher than 2 or 3%. So that's what I would do, and that's what I would look at. I would look at just the pros and cons of each one. But if I got $50,000 in credit card debt and I got $50,000 in my hand, but I think I can pay 25 here and then maybe I can make some money in the stock market. No, I'm not doing that. I'll pay 100% of the credit card debt off, and then now I have all that money that I was paying on the monthly payment. I can put all that into investments, so I didn't kill two birds with one stone. I got rid of that 21% interest I'm paying, and now I'm trying to seek alpha, trying to get 10, 11% return by just investing in the market. But that was a good question. If the U.S. was not in debt, how would the U.S. be thriving? This is a complex question, but I like it. So understand how U.S. debt works. U.S. debt works by the U.S. take out the debt in today's money, and they know, most people don't understand, that they're paying it back with less valuable money later. But if the United States was not in as much debt as the value of the dollar as it worked around the world would work better. The amount of money that they're paying back in interest would be a lot less. So a lot of the taxpayer dollars, just for people that understand, about a third of the money that the United States receive in tax revenue just goes to paying interest. So again, so people can understand, the debt that the United States pay, or that businesses pay, or state governments pay, is not like the debt that you pay for a car or a house. It's not the principal and the interest combined together. It is 100% interest that they're paying. So 1/3 of the tax revenue that they bring in just pays interest. And then once they get to the end term of the bond or the treasury that they have the debt on, they either have to refi the debt or they have to pay the total balance. So if the U.S. Takes out $1 billion in debt, let's say it's a 7-year treasury, 5-year treasury, they're only paying the interest every month on the $1 billion. And then at the end of the 7 years, they have to hand over $1 billion. It's not like when we buy a car, 60% goes to interest, 30% goes to principal, and it keeps dwindling down. That's not how it works. So the more we raise debt, the more interest payments that we have to do, and then we have to keep refining them or paying it off. And then that just more tax revenue go towards paying interest payments and less money going towards Medicaid, Medicare, defense spending, all the other avenues and buckets that the federal government has. So the more that we bring in, the more interest that we got to pay. And let's be real, it's less interest or less tax revenue that the government is bringing in. So that's why it's dwindling fast, and that's why the credit score of the United States has dropped in the last couple months, especially by Moody. But that was a good question. Married terms 8th rate. Yep. Last question I got here. What are your thoughts on American Dream and has it faded? That's a hell of a question. I'm just gonna be honest with y'all. The American Dream, and what the person is saying by the American Dream, he's meaning, have a house, picket fence, 2 cars, 2.5 kids, a dog. Every American should have that. Me personally, I'm not a fan of the American Dream because it makes people chase stuff that's not true. And again, this is just my opinion. Don't take this as gospel. I believe everybody can strive and do greatness, but it doesn't say that you're a man or you're a woman if you don't own a home, if you ain't got the picket fence, if you ain't got 2.5 cars. I'm a believer of, I believe my American Dream is I bring in more money than it is for me to live off of. And I'm able to do whatever I want to do. Especially in this world, especially the younger generations, y'all shake and move way faster. I mean, once you buy a house, it literally locks you into that situation, especially if you buy a house to live in. Of course, I know you can sell it years later, but you're locked into that area. I mean, when you buy a home and then you know how the hybrid market of jobs are today, you might get a job offer in California, but if you bought a house here in Michigan, now you're in a dilemma. Hey, do I take the job in California or do I not, because I'm still sitting here stuck to this house? And then now we in a housing environment right now where houses are not going fast. So do I keep this house here, pay the mortgage on this house, and then go to California, pay the mortgage on there? So now you in a dilemma. Of course you can rent, but then with how it's looking now, the rents right now is crazy high. It's not like a whole bunch of people are going to, be in line to rent. So that's the dilemma, and that's how I look at the American Dream. I think the American Dream should pivot, should change, and you should be able to you should have more income than your expenses, and it gives you the ability to be fluid, be flexible, especially the younger generations. The older generations like me, we cool with just sitting in the house, posted up and doing nothing and staying within our 20, 30-mile radius. But the American Dream, has it faded for many? Yeah, it faded for many because they didn't program themselves or do the things that they needed to do. If we just stick into the American Dream's theme of what they needed to do to make sure that they had the home, they had the cars, and then they picked up habits that they really don't want to get rid of. They really don't want to change. So it's really not, it can't happen that you can't get a house, a car, the picket fence, and a dog. They've been programmed, usually by relatives and family members, to do things that didn't make financial sense, but they so long gone with it that they cannot change their habits and turn back time. So for a lot of people, the American Dream is gone because they chose to choose another life instead of focusing on the things that's important. They wanted to be cool. They wanted to hang out. They wanted to do what they wanted their cake and eat it too in their 20s. They want their cake and eat it too in their 70s. And then in between time, they done lost sight of the real goals here. So I don't think it's faded what people want, but I think that the opportunity for people to get it has dwindled fast, especially the older they get. I know that was a long-winded answer, but I had to give that. But any other questions out there? Let me see. I don't believe there's no other questions out there, and I'm not gonna hold y'all for a long time. Thanks for the comments, the questions that's out there. Thanks everybody who joined into the live. Again, you can keep commenting, asking questions. I'll answer them on the next live. You know, we do this every Saturday at noon. Please like, subscribe, share with people, tell them to join in, tell them to ask questions, and we'll see you in the next video. But thanks for joining in, and we have a good one. Wait, we got another question. I think the American dream, I think, has to change with times, but whatever that dream is, I think there is no better place to reach the dream opportunity-wise than in the United States, in my opinion. And I 100% agree with that. If that is your dream to, obtain the American dream, the United States is the best place to do it. So the people that's talking about they're going to leave the country and do all this other stuff, hell, half of y'all barely understand English. Y'all damn sure ain't going to go to another country and figure it out. And that's exactly how I feel. But thanks a lot for all the questions. Thanks, Vasone, for your questions. Thanks for sitting in here dealing with me, accepting me in your house and hanging out with me for the weekend. But for all y'all, have a good one. We'll see you in the next one.